Hi, it's Tim Clark with the End Times Matrix News with Chris. And today we're having an interesting show on the Saturn and the Abyss. And this is going to be very interesting. Chris put a lot of time into arranging this for us, and we put it up a few days ago with the topics that we hit. And I said, well, we can do all that in 2 hours. I guess we'll have to. But it's probably going to turn into a part one. And I might do a part two. And if we do a part two, we'll see about if we'll do it at the end of this week or what we need to go ahead and do that. But hi, Chris. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Hello, everybody. Hey, yep. Anthony, I hope you're watching.
And so, yes, Anthony is busy writing his books. And so this is going to be interesting, though. You really connected some very interesting types of things. I think last show was interesting with talking about the gravitational pull and the Birkeland currents and the whole sulfur battery concepts. That was really neat. And this week we're going to get into some interesting things, and we're going to be talking about woes. And I see your first slide here is on the abyss. So go ahead.
Right. Yeah, we're going to talk about Revelation 9, and just bear with me, everybody, because I'm going to have a couple of other verses from Genesis, and I'm going to try to put this picture together with the Alpha and the Omega. And this is the false Alpha and Omega tied to the abyss. And so we'll go through this. I'm also going to put the Sumerian gods together with this too. I usually do the Egyptian because it's easier to explain, but now I'm going to do the Sumerian aspect of it today and talk about some translations from the Strongs about the sea and the abyss, and get into some deep translations that tie to the plowshares, which is the Alpha and the Omega, the Aleph and the Tav. So, yeah, so it'll be really interesting tying all this together. So the abyss and trumpets 5, 6, 7, the three woes are indeed a time of great anguish and affliction for those who have pledged their allegiance to the Antichrist during the end times. Trumpets 5 and 6 specifically actually are believed to be severe demonic activity. So just keep in mind, Tartarus is the deep abyss that is used as a dungeon of torment and suffering for the wicked, and as the prison for the Titans, which is Saturn. The Saturn giants, the Nephilim, are trapped in a parallel dimension called the Netherworld, that's where Saturn is. They do not have souls, only evil spirits from the bloodline of Saturn, the Nephilim. So in Revelation 9, 1 through 2, the fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the heaven to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun, and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So I'm going to break these words down in the Strongs. In this particular verse, Uranus is heaven. It means Uranus. There are different places in the Bible that talk about this being heaven, but there's also another translation for heaven also that is Shemayim, and that's a different heaven. So Uranus is the sky god, and he's looked at as heaven, the visible heavens, the atmosphere of the sky, the starry heavens, the spiritual heavens. Uranus was the third of the primordial deities, following after Chaos and Gaia, Earth, and preceding Eros, which is Horus, and Tartarus, which was Saturn, was the father of Typhon, which is Set, and Uranus and Pontus. Now, I know it's going to get a little bit confusing, but this is a cycle, so just keep that in mind. So in Genesis 1:6, it says, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And it really means, the waters from the heaven from the waters of the earth. So we're going to talk about the word trumpet now. Trumpet is a word that is translated to salpizo, and it means sound at a trumpet. It also means sow pigs, and it is a trumpet, a sound of a trumpet, which means a war trumpet. This word means war trumpet. It also means salos, which is a tossing, the swell of the sea, and the tossing of the sea in a tempest, the tossing of a sea in tempest, agate, and rolling of the sea. And then, sorry, I got interrupted. Sano, the wag the tail, hence the great flatter disturb. This is also from the word trumpet. And I put trumpets to next to it so you'd see this is where it comes from, that word trumpet. It also means shake. So here it is again, tossing of the sea, swell of the sea. Okay. And then the word abyss. The word abyss is T-home, and it means deep. So and I'll show you later in Genesis what that means too. So it also comes from the Greek word abusos, and it's the unfathomable depth, the abyss, and home of the dead and evil spirits. And this is from the Strong's Concordance. So we know the abyss by the word of God is translated to the depth, the deep, and it is where the dead and evil spirits are. It comes from the word buthos, and this word comes from the word alpha as a negative prefix, and busos. So this word also means the deep sea, the bottom. Abusos is from a negative particle. This is from the Strong's Concordance also. It's from a negative particle and a variation of buthos, the depthless, meaning infernal, abyss, bottomless pit, and the sea, the deep, Strong's number 12. This is the way I see this electricity going through from the center of the earth with a negative electron. Electron, one of the three major parts of all matter. Types are 6 is electron, neutrino, muon, neutrino, tau, and tau neutrino. So just keep these words in mind. Tau, like the tau cross, muon, which is translated to Venus, and electron, which is translated to the abyss. And we know that Saturn is doing collisions of ion lead right now, which is interesting. And Anthony says it's going to be way more powerful than what Cern had stated. So here's a picture expressing the negative electron in the center of the energy. And here's Cern. This is a picture from Cern, smashing particles, and here's a muon electron. Here's the word mem, which means muon. And Venus is a French word. In Hebrew, it's this letter. And Hebrew, it's a number 40, the 13th letter. So keep these numbers in mind and these letters in mind. 13th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. N is in final position of the Sophete, which is means mem, and it's used only at the end of a word. Venus in Greek is Latin is M. In Egyptian, mem is the hieroglyphic for the symbol water. So keep that in mind too. And here, keep this in mind. Cern is above Apollo's temple. And And then we know that the temple, they're going to be building the third temple from where the moon god's temple is. This is a moon temple. And we're going to talk about that stone underneath there again, and the abzu, and how it connects to all this again. And here's the Gemini twins, Apollo and Hermes. One of them was supposedly immortal. The other one represents Orion, which is Hercules, and I'm going to explain that a little too. Which
one of the Gemini twins had a Jason mask on this past weekend with Halloween. From the he's wearing it in space.
Nice.
Yeah, I put out an article complaining about how fake NASA is with their little Freemason occult rituals, and he's sitting there, one half of the Gemini twins, one of the Kelly brothers, with his little Jason mask on Halloween, and I was going, good grief.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of that when I was looking through news and stuff. Yeah, but they represent the moon and the sun, and together they're the gluon. So that's a terms in Cern. So the Aleph and the Ta. So think about this. Here's the plowshares. That's what it means together. And I translated something from the Bible from Sulfur that I found it very interesting that ties to this. So here's the symbol of the Ta, and then it's the letter that I showed you from Venus, which is the same letter as the Ta, is the Mem, and that's what Venus means. And then it's tied to Cern here with these muons. And then you have the abyss, which is part of the electron, which I'm sure that they don't understand all of that part of it. Of that particle, which is the negative electron. In the Sefer Yetzirah, Book of Formation or Book of Creation, the letter Mem is king over water, formed earth in the universe, cold in the year, and the belly in the soul. The Phoenician letter gave rise to the Greek mu, M, Etruscan. This is a symbol, Latin M equals 13. So keep these numbers and letters in mind. Here's a wave. This is a hieroglyph for M. It resembles the triangle waves of electromagnetic waves in physics. The M in Hebrew is derived from the Egyptian and is a key construct in the definition of water or waves.
Yeah.
This is to show you that I translated in Google Translate and copied it, so that way when they scrub it, I still have this copy here showing you Venus is this letter translated. So Yam is Poseidon. He represents the abyss, and I don't want to get too confusing here, but he's the son of El, and he has two brothers, which is Mot, which is Pluto, and Jupiter, and then Juno, which is Hera. And Jupiter and Juno are one body, and she represents the pole star. So now we're going to get into the Sumerian stuff, which is really interesting. I figured some things out that I've been wondering for years on this that I'm going to dig into even more and put on in part 2. But the Abzu, primordial sea below the void space of the underworld, Ker, and the earth, Ma, above. Enlil, this is a picture of Enlil with his bow and arrow, and he is sacrificing Shapash. She's the counterpart of Shamash. So they're the same deity, but this is the female aspect of it. And she's connected to Shiva too, and she has the the third eye here, see?
Yeah, it is interesting that they put that there with how many rays are around her head? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I think 11, maybe 12. So she's 12. She has rays and the third eye.
Yeah, she actually, I believe, represents something at the beginning with the primordial chaos, because Earth is connected to deities that are from the primordial chaos, and deities also became different deities and then hybrid deities. So it gets really confusing, but I hope that I can make it a little simple here and then explain more of it next time. But this is a symbol of Mercury with the sun head. Well, actually Apollo, because that's Apollo's wand, who Mercury carries. It's his brother's wand. So interestingly enough, Jewish law prescribes that Jews face the site of the temple in Jerusalem during prayer, recommends that one turn towards the southeast instead of the east to avoid the semblance of worshiping the sun. And the tank, what is that called? Tanakh, okay. Worshipping Shamash is forbidden and is punishable by stoning. Worshipping Shamash was said to include bowing to the east in the direction of the sun, as well as rituals related to horses and chariots which were associated with her. So here this is the sun, Shamash, pretty much, and here's Enlil, which represents the moon, and he's stabbing the female aspect of the sun.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really complex. So, I'm sure I'm going to have to digest some of this and keep.
Well, yeah, it's a different way of thinking. I mean, these cultures had different psychology about how they viewed reality. So it's much different than a Western view on things. So the psychology of it's different for us it's harder for us to grasp the different levels because we compartmentalize and specialize, where they have a more several layers altogether.
Yeah. In ancient times, Heraclitus even believed that Mercury and Venus orbited the sun, not the Earth. And this is the omphalos stone, which represents the abzu. It's a stone that's tied with the Delphi Oracle and Apollo. It's the foundation stone.
So how many omphalos stones do we have in Jerusalem? Because it's kind of the center of the earth is what these things represent, right? So we got the Holy Sepulchre there in Jerusalem, and we got the Dome of the Rock. Are there any more in Jerusalem, or does each denomination have an omphalos stone, or what?
I don't know. I know this is the place where David bought the threshing floor, and there's a cave underneath there. So I'm sure that there are like certain points that line up with the stars that are, but I'm not really sure if there's any more. I'm sure that there probably is, but I don't know.
I was just curious because I know the main one is under that dome. The Well of Souls that we covered in the Dig series and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the Well of Souls is under the Dome of the Rock, the temple in Jerusalem that the Vatican is going to take over. And
but I just didn't know about the Holy Sepulchre one. I didn't know that they had an omphalos in there also. But
oh yeah.
That's what I was curious about. Wonder if they have some kind of pattern laid out in Jerusalem with these omphalos stones. Because I was only aware of the one under the dome. So another mystery.
Yep. So in the city of Eridu, Enki's temple was known as E2 Abzu, named after the Abzu, which is a lion-headed eagle, which represents the primordial chaos before the earth. Now, I want to make it clear that when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about a parallel dimension coming from the underworld to an earth that is already here. They claim to be the creators of the earth and the universe and all of that. But it's a complex thing because the real true God made everything. And they're claiming that they are the creators and And so this is just a way to understand the occult and how all of this happened, because after the flood is dated differently, and we know that everything was made way before then. So, so here's a illustration here about Anu, Ki, which is Earth. Anu is Uranus in the sky, and he's called heaven. And Uranus, like I said before, from the Bible translations. And here's Enki and Enlil, the north wind. So you have the sky, the earth, the sea, and the wind. And so this is what this represents here. And this is also representing the system of the swastika and Juno, which is the pole star that we talked about before.
Yeah, I was looking at the chase sign as I was driving around this week, and the swastika in the chase bank signs as you drive around have those big scoops that go around the pole star, and you just look at that thing and you just go, how many people actually recognize this? You know,
it really does have it. I mean, symbols everywhere. But this is Orion, and this is Cernunnos, which is Proto-Shiva. Yeah. And you can find Shiva also as Orion. And it's interesting because you notice the hoofs of the bull on some of the artifacts of this. And then you noticed up here that Enki has a bull's leg holding onto her chest, see?
Yeah, it also makes me think of the Minotaur, too. This kind of bull god with hoofs. That's it's almost similar to Cernunnos, that picture of Cernunnos, but you know, the Cernunnos is we connected it with Hashipatu of the Vedic background for Shiva, and so it is related to Shiva. So Cern and Shiva are connected directly through Hashipatu, as that's one of the derivations of Shiva that people aren't aware of, that connects Cern and Shiva. So,
all right, and Shiva means seven, representing the 7 planets.
What's the Pleiades? How many stars were in the Pleiades?
7.
That's 7.
Yeah, they represent Saturn, and they're in Taurus. And, you know, we're going to talk a little more about the bull's horn and the moon. And this is Apollo and Hermes also here represents Hercules. And you saw that he has this club in his hand. And then we know that also Orion has a club in his hand and an arrow. And he actually has a knife or a blade in his hand there. So these are the 3 stars of the belt of Orion. There's a nebula, and that's supposed to be some sort of gateway. Sirius A, B, and C represent Anu, Enki, and Enlil, Isis, Horus, and Osiris. So those 3 stars are tied from Sirius to the belt of Orion.
So this is the main constellation layout that we see with the Giza pyramids, the 3 pyramids, and also with the World Trade Center footprint.
Over the world, all the pyramids are tied to this.
Yes. Right. So this whole Orion's belt thing is central, and of course the Sirius aspect of it too. But they keep repeating this everywhere, and
it represents the brain here. The 3 stars represents Pluto, represents the brain.
Well, I know about the
represents Mars. So
I know about the triune brain, which is very popular among the evolutionists. It's an older model, but the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and the prefrontal cortex. And I wasn't aware that this part of Orion is related to is this a cosmic brain or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much the whole system of the quantum entanglement from the Saturn battery.
Okay. I have to think about this more, where the reptilian aspect would be. Wherever Draco is, I'm sure we'll find it.
Well, actually, the Thuban star and where Draco is used to be the pole star. And then it changed around 2500 BC to Hera, which is Juno. So she also represents the Earth goddess too, and the Queen of Heaven.
I know from the Taoist traditions that they believe that the cosmos is inside the human body, that the macro is in the micro. So whatever you see outside is inside. And so I think it's interesting that some of these areas are related to certain aspects of the human body. So I'll have to do more research on the brain aspect, though.
Yeah. So we're just talking about Gemini, and the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. Mercury has a cycle of 88 days, and it spends 3 weeks in each sign. 3 times a year, it moves to retrograde motion, bringing chaos and misunderstandings. So here's this picture I showed last time too. All over the world, you see these symbols in every culture. This represents Orion. This is Hercules representing Orion. And the 2 snakes in his hand, see? Mm-hmm. The caduceus. Just like Hermes. So here, if you want to know what planet the Sumerian gods represent, here it is. Anshur is Saturn. He's also Asher. Kishur is Jupiter. It's a female. Gaga is Pluto, and he's minister to Anshur, and also the son of him. Anu is Uranus. Ki or Kai is Nintu, and the earlier aspect was Tiamat. Later was Earth. So Tiamat also represents the female aspect of the abzu. Lamu represents Mars. Lahamu represents Venus, which is Ninlil. Mumu is Mercury, and he represents Enlil. Apsu is father of Lahamu, which is Mars and Venus, and Anshur and Kishur. So Apsu was supposedly the sun, and I know that's confusing, but split with this Tiamat. And here's just a map showing all of the way that the planets were seen then, and the names of them. So remember that the watery deep and where that comes from. Deep, Tehom, abyss, Apsu. Apsu represents the abzu. Is that confusing? Because the abzu also represents Tammuz. There you go. I'll explain that a little bit more later. But
well, this is the Sumerian names, right? The Lamu and Lahamu.
Yeah.
So
those are the Sumerian.
These are the ones we're not familiar with as much.
Right. But we will be. I'm getting there. I mean, I kind of was, and I haven't studied it in a long time. So
at least we know where the moo comes from now. You know you're wearing Mercury when you're wearing a moo.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I was looking up moo, I saw a lot of people wearing moo, so that was funny. Okay. So here's a picture of Lamu and Lahamu, which is Venus. And here's Anshur, with Saturn and
That's the dog star behind you barking.
yes, they all did not mind me. Okay. This is now I was telling you about Typhon being the son of Saturn, which he represents Saturn. And so Typhon's egg, we talked about the Ogdoad and the Ennead. The Ogdoad, which is the 8, which is representative of the moon, temple, and Hermes stuff, and then merged with the temple of Saturn, which is Helios. Helios, the sun, represents Saturn.
You know what was interesting also with this is that when we're doing the Easter celebrations of the pagan holidays and we color the eggs, and we're basically celebrating the inside of the egg, which is kind of like its own little solar system when you got a hard-boiled egg, but it's basically celebrating Semiramis. And so these cosmic eggs are pretty interesting to see how they represent different things. So the one on the left is which one? It's Heliopolis.
This is the
moon symbol. Yeah.
This is Nana-Sin. If you look at all the gods with horns like Ishtar, Inanna, Isis, there's like so many gods that wear these horns, and it's because they worship Nana-Sin.
And what deity is that again?
He's Enlil's son, and he's a moon god.
Moon god, right.
So here's just showing they emerged with the Ennead. Anshur and Kishur, what she represents Isis.
Yeah, because that's the same pose Madonna did at the Super Bowl, if you look back.
Yeah.
That's the exact same pose where she's doing that.
Yeah, it is a little bit confusing with Sumerian. It's easier to understand with the Egyptians, but yeah. So here is the Earth and Anu, which is Uranus. They are the parents of Enlil, and these are goddesses, gods and goddesses that I'm talking about here. So if you think about the story with Saturn castrated Uranus, and then he became Uranus and over that as a god, and then Jupiter castrated Saturn, and then he became over it as a god. That's really more easier to understand with the Ouroboros, with the snake eating its tail. It's because it's a cycle, because really and truly Saturn is Anu. He rules Uranus. So just keep that in mind. Thalassa is also Tiamat, and she represents the chaos and the watery deep in this mythology of the Big Bang Theory in 2600 BC. And okay, so in Mosiak, she is depicted with a crab claw horns, wearing seaweed and holding a ship's oar. And we know that the crab ate the phallus of Osiris, but it's interesting that she looks that way. And here's a Nintu, which represents Ki, the goddess of the earth. And you see her little omega symbol here. And then she has 2 heads on each shoulders.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And then here she is as the abzu bird. Remember, she's a split deity, so they always have a male and female and aspect to them.
Yeah, right. I think that's what I picked up with this castration story, is that it's the way of saying the female aspect of this is this. Removing the male aspect and becoming the female aspect. I think I see it more that way.
Yeah, like Saturn became Venus, so that's why.
That's why the castration is comes the female aspect. I think that's the simple psychology of when you hear the castration stories, is going from the male to the female aspect.
And so here is This is Enlil as Ningishta.
I'm not familiar. This is the Sumerian name of.
He is. This is the Caduceus. See.
Yeah.
This is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is the Kabbalah tree. And he is one of the gatekeepers, and so is Tammuz.
Now, just throwing this out there, now we deal with Kundalini energy going up the spine in the Indian traditions. And we see the serpents going up in the around the spine there. You know anything about the Kundalini energy with the Sumerians? Do they talk about it much? I mean, I'm hitting you from left field here, but it's just what's popping up for me as I'm.
No, I mean, no.
Because I see it there, but I don't know if they actually talk about the energy. Because we know through yoga, we're raising the energy through the chakras and the third eye and all. This is all third eye kind of stuff. This is what they want to drive everybody towards for the hive mind in the New World Order. But I'm just wondering, here we see it within the Sumerian stuff, and I'm just wondering if there's a story about it.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I know there is, of course, in the Egyptian with the magic and all of that, and the stars, and the Book of Thoth and the Book of the Dead, and all of that with the magic and stuff like that, and tied to the planets and stuff. But that's something to think about. Here's another picture of the abzu, and this is another name for it. And here it is here, the Emmy Dugid.
Yeah, I'm not sure. See, the Sumerians is one area I really have not investigated a lot with their, I looked at the Babylonian a bit, but the Sumerian's even older than the Babylonian. It's interesting.
So answer again, Saturn, son of Mars and Venus. And I know that's confusing because you think, well, Venus and Mars came from Saturn, but it's just said that way because of the fallen angels and the battles and the bloodlines and Ptolemy and Mars, and they got the bloodline of Cain, and so that's why it's that way.
I'm thinking this Lamu, is this in any way related to the Lakshmi thing from Hinduism? Because that's one of the favorite Star Wars references of Luke Skywalker. Darth Vader's Lakshmi was the Buddhist. What does it mean? Well, I'm sure they're related. I'm just
sure
trying to figure it out. Lakshmi and Lamu, they must be somewhere similar there.
So Anshur is, now here it is again, the father of Anu. And he's the son of Lamu and Lahamu, and therefore the grandson of Tiamat and Apsu, appearing also as their parent. It is very confusing. Well,
the name of the kid is Anakin in the Star Wars movie, so here we got Anshur. So I'm sure that I'm surfing around.
And Anunnaki and
Ananki. So I'm sure I'm kind of hitting around what they're trying to get at here.
So Anu is Uranus and Ki is the Earth. They're the parents of Mumu, Mercury, Enlil, and he is the father of the moon, Sin. So every time you see someone sitting here with this little crescent moon, that's Sin.
Now, when we're looking at some of the older glyphs, they sit on that square in the Egyptian stuff, don't they? You have the deities sitting on the cube. So this is a similar thing to that, to those glyphs where they're sitting on the, I guess the Saturn cube is what I was thinking. But I'm just getting all sidetracked today, but my mind's just.
That's okay. Yeah, they do the same thing, these gods and the hybrids and the higher self, and they sit on these thrones and stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
so Sin is the moon god. His symbol is the crescent moon, the bull, the tripod. Maybe it's like a lampstand. He had a beard made of lapis lazuli, and he rides a winged bull.
Wow. Isn't that interesting that Sin is connected to the blue-eyed winged bull cults? So it's like, wow, that's interesting. Because there's wasn't there a desert of Sin or something like that, a desert named Sin in the ancient, I think there was. Desert of Sin, wilderness of Sin, that's what it is. Desert of Sin is geographic area mentioned in the Bible as lying between Elim and Mount Sinai.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Where our gate is there by Mount Sinai.
Yeah, so Sin, very interesting, where that origin of that is connected to this, like you said, the gates.
Well, I am trying to connect Sin with Lamech. Because Lamech, his name is Lamga or Lamhu or Linga, and he's tied to Shiva, and then his twins Jubal and Jabal, they are cattle herder, and the other one plays instruments just like Apollo and Hermes, and then the Batal is Tubal-Cain. And it's interesting. I'm working on something called the arrow of Tubal-Cain.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be very interesting.
Yeah, the arrow is actually symbolic of a mind weapon, and it's tied to Hinduism. And so there was something going on there with Cain guiding the arrow of his blind father Lamech and shooting Cain, and then Lamech clapped his hands and Tubal-Cain died.
Yeah, there's always something, biblically speaking, about the arrows and piercing and the serpent. The serpent is always piercing through thorns, through arrows, through everything about piercing is related to this arrow thing. And then I'm not really sure about Achilles' heel and the piercing of the heel with the arrow, but that also has to be connected somehow. And I'm not up on that story of the crossover meaning there, but it was fatal again. It could have been the serpent and the heel of the woman crushing the head of the serpent, and it could just be the serpent biting the heel and killing, it could be a reverse story of some sort, but.
Yeah, the bloodlines,
Could just be a bloodline story where they're saying that the serpent wins by piercing the heel.
Like Esau and Jacob and the heel
and the heels there too, and the piercing and there's something Esau going on here.
Think about this. Okay, so Dumuzi is Tammuz, and he's the son of Enki. Nimrod is the father of Tammuz. So therefore he represents and so it's interesting also because Hermes represents Hercules in the sky, but he also represents Enki too. He can be the same deity. They are, and it's very hard to understand that. But I do understand that they are the same.
Okay.
Set and Horus, Hermes and Apollo, and one of them is hybrid, and the other one is because he had took on the DNA of Cain, and then it was resurrected through Ptah.
So Nimrod becoming Geborim was not immortal, but was becoming hybrid or Nephilim-like, which is kind of that story you're talking about there, because one's immortal and one's kind of Nephilim, not immortal. And so Nimrod is kind of like not immortal, but he's becoming like the Nephilim, almost similar.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Semiramis was the mother of Tammuz, and then she married Tammuz.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's interesting because the same thing in Egypt when Akhenaten, he had a daughter, he married his daughter. He had King Tut, and King Tut married her too. So
Same story, yeah.
yeah, and it's the same story with Enlil and Enki. Same thing. You know, one of us is half sister, and they both married the same person, and then she became the mother of another one, and it's very confusing. But
we can see that
and they supposedly have different DNA.
Right. This is the tradition of the blue bloods, is what they're doing. Even when I was studying genealogy systems back in my anthropology days, the Hawaiian system was one of them, and everybody was on the same level. It's not like uncle or anything like that. Everybody was, father, mother, or sister, brother, and their system.
Yeah, they married into the families. Like in Hawaii, a lot of the people there, right? They marry like
Same
their brother or their cousin.
Right, and royalty would marry their sisters to keep the royal bloodline. And this is this is what we're looking at with what we're talking about here. It's the same system. It's the blue blood system, basically. Of course, our modern day system would say that's incest, marry your sister, but their old system was you keep the bloodline, you keep the power, the serpent seed power, these serpent occult energies in the blood, in the family, or you marry within the family somewhere to keep the bloodline pure. And that's why they're so obsessed with all this stuff, which makes the hemophilia thing with the royals actually kind of interesting to think about, that as a side effect of them doing incest over this period of time.
Oh yeah, like having deformities and all of that.
Even Darwin got into all those kind of problems with trying to marry within his. They don't really talk about that, but he believed in keeping bloodlines, the purity of the elite, and he got into having all kinds of problems with his progeny.
Well, that's because he didn't believe in Jesus.
Exactly, but
I mean, because he believes in this evolution that's from like 2600 BC. Whenever the Ogdoad and the Ennead was.
And evolution, I used to laugh at it because if you just get into the whole thing with karma and the cycle of reincarnation and all that, you can see that they have a philosophy of evolving to the next level, and then to escape the wheel of the karmic wheel. And evolution comes from the philosophy of reincarnation and karma. It was never based on anything scientific. This thing about this, and I always had a problem with this because this is what my degree was in. My degree was in physical anthropology, and I'm going, this is just garbage. This theory is garbage. But the point is, you can't go up to get tenured in the university system saying that evolution is flawed because it'll just eliminate you. You have to say the right thing to get paid, and the whole thing with Darwin's observations was differentiation within species, longer necks or shorter beaks or things like that. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's just showing that species adapt to their food chain. The ones that have that specific quality about them that helps them to survive is the dominant blood line in that gene in that species that continues on. It spreads more of its offspring, but it's not going from a single cell to a human from a slimy fish that comes out of goo. That's where they're just totally bonkers. I mean, they're trying to force their reincarnation stuff on everybody and on the karmic wheel and the evolution, and the Star Trek junkies took off with all this, and the Picard's going, we're going to evolve into gods someday, and it's like, what are you talking about? But sorry, I went off on my evolution tangent, but it comes from reincarnation and a spiritual philosophy. It doesn't come from fact.
Yeah, it's that's what the Egyptians, they're gods of the dead, and they come from the underworld, and they do their burials, and so that way they can, I guess Hermes is like the god that brings their soul to the afterlife or whatever in that aspect, but that's false. That's their king, and that's,
And it was also, I forget what the what was the name of the one fish god, the Onesimus or something like that, that came up to the
Onanus,
yeah
Dagon.
yeah that one, Dagon, the one that they thought Jonah was when he went to Nineveh. They thought that was Onenus.
Oannes.
Yeah, that one. That's what he thought. They thought that this was the fish god coming out, and that's what the coming out of the sea as a fish onto land and becoming human comes from these things. So you can obviously see they're connected to fallen angels, Nephilim, and the wheel of reincarnation, but it's not connected to anything else.
Yeah, that was represents Enki too.
Yeah, I forget what his. I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but it's Onis something. Yeah.
Onanus or something.
Dagon, basically, but.
So here's the his father's Enlil, mother Ninlil. She represents Venus too, and this is Ninurta is his so Enlil's son, and this is Marduk. This is Enki's son.
Isn't it interesting the wings on Enlil being very cherubim-like almost?
Yeah.
Then they have like the six.
This is Ninurta, and they all have them, but yeah, they do have the wings like from fallen angels above, and I do believe Cain's line were like giants, and I do believe that they were that fallen angel bloodline, and so it's just interesting that. So he calls in this book. It's called in the encyclopedia. It's called the Spirit of Chaos, and this was before the, in the chaos. That's where the 8 deities were born from the egg of Thoth. From the Ogdode. And so this was Tiamat, and it represented the earth, and which is confusing but it does represent under the earth, like the abyss. And so these guys are the same, really.
Now, are those tridents or tuning forks? I remember when we were looking at the Twin Towers and we look at the architecture, and the very bottom connection to the ground is a tuning fork or the trident going up the sides of the tower when we're looking at the architecture.
No, that's yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing because, the trident represents the tuning fork, but this is an electric lightning bolt weapon.
Yeah.
And it's called Vaji.
It's called
Vaji. The Vaji.
Lightning. I wonder.
Yeah, you can see this in Hindu temples and stuff. Like they look a little bit different, but that's what they are. So Anshur was identified with Asher, and in this case, his consort was an Enlil because she gets around, and attributes are identical with those of Asher. Gaga is Pluto, and
there you go. No, the Asherah pole. I was thinking Asher and Asherah being.
Oh, Asherah, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it's the same thing. Gaga, Pluto, minister of Anshur, Saturn. Gaga is a minor Babylon deity. He represents Osiris in the underworld in Hades, and he's a deity featured in the Enuma Elish sent by Anshur to the forces of Tiamat with the formal announcement of Marduk's readiness to battle Tiamat. Pluto was given a new name, Usmi, meaning he who shows the way, as the first planet. So Enki was E. E became Enki. E is Neptune, and Enki is Saturn. He's the same. Same thing.
I still like connecting this with the video games the kids are playing called EA Sports. Is that they play the Madden football and all those things, but it's one of the names of the main video manufacturers is EA, and I find it interesting that
I saw that.
I just
a lot of different companies call that too.
EA, Neptune, or what
So
is it? Enki? Is it Enki? Is EA or Enlil?
Enki.
Okay, Enki Sports.
Yeah,
okay.
He's a different aspect of himself there, which is represents Poseidon, and so Earth is supposedly the mother of E, which is Neptune. There's something that has to do with the flood and these planets during that time, and Tubal-Cain. He was the last descendant, I guess, shown in the Bible, and then there was a flood. So Enki and Enlil, sons of Anu, Uranus, the supreme father, who was the son of Anshur and Kishar. They were the brother and sister of Mumu Enlil, who was the son of the primal pair, Tiamat and Abzu, which represents the abyss, the chaos, the dark, during the fall,
Yeah.
So Enki is the son of An and Namu, father of Dumuzi, which is Tammuz, Ninsar, Utu, which is a sun god. See, when they're like Nimrod and Tammuz is the son of Shamash or Utu, the sun. They reference it to whoever the main father of the sun was, but they call it Utu sometimes. But Dumuzi is the son of Enki, and he's Tammuz. And so these are his other children. Mumu is not a dress. It means maker. It actually is a dress too, I guess. A big one. Okay, next, Lamu and Mumu about, and their names mean slime, mud, and from these two gods came Anshur, which means whole sky, and Kishar, which means whole earth. Anshur and Kishar came together to make Anu, the sky god. He produces E, which means image fashioner.
Image fashioner. Okay. Produces E. Okay.
Yeah. Which is Neptune.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking biblical.
So
with
this
the
is,
image,
if you think about
the image. I'm trying to think if that's connected. The Enki and the image of the beast, which is.
this is it. When I'm imagining these things, I'm imagining energy, solar energy, energy, and connects to these planets, and because Marduk evidently killed Tiamat, which represents the chaos, and the T-home, which is the abyss. In Genesis, it talks about the T-home and the abyss at the very beginning, before the earth was made. But God said he saw that everything was good at that time, before the fall. So this is Enki and Ninkrag. She's the same as Nintu and Tiamat, Ki, and that's his wife and half-sister. In mythology, this is another aspect of Thoth as the gatekeeper of the tree in the garden, and of knowledge and evil. And in Sumerian, he appears as a Dapis myth as one of the two guardians of Anu's celestial place, alongside Dumuzi, which is Tammuz. He was sometimes depicted as a serpent with a human head. But here, they're demons. That's why they have these bird claws. I forget what these demons are actually called. I have the information somewhere. So Tammuz is the son of Semiramis and Nimrod. The god was born on winter solstice, which on the ancient pagan calendar is December 25th.
Yep.
This day was celebrated as the day Nimrod was reborn, Tammuz. It is also a date common among pagan religions. Other gods that share Tammuz's birthday is December 25th.
Yeah, I'm studying this right now with the Celtic ley lines. Some of the cathedrals are set up on ley lines that start at the summer solstice and end at the winter solstice on the ley lines, with several, Celtic Catholic monasteries and churches built along this ley line at these points. So pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, when they sacrifice the bulls, they are sacrificing them to Neptune, to Poseidon, which is the abyss, the sea.
Yeah, that's where one of these mega cathedrals starts, right at the edge of the sea, right on the summer solstice, and then it proceeds inward.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just like when we did the show about the Saturn stone, right down at the end of the at the temple on the mount, that the Red Sea's there and the rivers, and so they would sacrifice on that stone, and the blood would go down into the sea.
Yeah, and then that's what part of the crossover with the Mithra cult with the bull sacrifice is. It's still.
So here is another artifact of Ningista, which is Hermes, Thoth, Enlil here. He's representing Orion here.
So it's just the two pillars again, dealing with Hercules and the two pillars, that kind of thing that we looked at. Because we had the I'm trying to remember over at Gibraltar, we have the Hercules pillars right there, and when they would venture out beyond the pillars, they would venture out into the unknown or into new discovery through the pillars, and that was one of the ancient rituals of that the Freemasons also do with Jacob and Boaz and the 13th pillar. I was just trying to connect them there.
Yeah, same thing, because the Milky Way is the ladder. The Milky Way, there is a black hole. There's Orion, and then you see Sirius is the star at the top of the Mason's board, and then the sun and the moon is on the right and the left, and then the 7 stars, which represents the Pleiades and Saturn and the 7 planets. And so Sirius is the star that they see as the gate. It's tied to the belt of Orion.
Yeah.
And and there's a nebula there in Orion.
Yeah, interesting.
So here's Uranus and Nammu, the parents of Enki. He has the reptilian bloodline, and he is also the bloodline of Ptah. Trying to think of the correct name for that bloodline. Ptah.
Well, you're talking about the Ennead and all that? The Ogden?
Yeah, Ptah is Tubal-Cain.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, you know that in Egypt. Yeah. So Nammu is goddess of the sea, Inger, that gave birth to An, heaven, and Ki, earth, and the first gods representing the abzu, which is the deep, the watery deep.
So when we say Anu, not Ki, we're saying An as in heaven and the Ki as in earth.
Yeah.
So Anu, and then I don't know what Na would be, but the Ki part is heaven and earth. Yeah. They got a lot of heaven earth meditations in the New Age. They do a lot of those.
Yeah, the Uranus has 13 rings, and remember I said M equals 13, and it also represents Venus. And this is supposedly whenever there was a cataclysmic event, Uranus turned sideways and so did Pluto. And the rings are of a moon that was hit during that time. So it is tilted sideways. It is a unique system there. This is a symbol for Uranus, and it's also a symbol for Sirius too, and Venus. See?
How many? Is that the 8-pointed star?
Yeah.
Okay.
An is also Anu. The Babylonians said Marduk created the heavens and earth by murdering Tiamat, Tammuz by Babylonian name, and forming the universe from her body.
So is that what we were looking at with the original at the beginning of our show, where we were showing the guy plunging the knife into her body? Was to
yeah, it's the same thing. It's that's Ninlil, but
kind of the same story though.
Oh, here it is. Let's see.
Well, I didn't mean.
No, I wanted to show you Marduk.
Yeah, Marduk is fascinating to me. That's the one I just totally obsess over because of the whole Iraq, Babylon, the temple complex of Marduk. The whole thing that Bushes did with going into the this whole tomb of Gilgamesh and all that.
See, he was the one who
with thunderbolts
was able to break through an energy vibration to control and to be the king god. So
Zeus has thunderbolts. Marduk has thunderbolts.
Yeah, Marduk represents Zeus and Jupiter. Yeah. I know Kishar does too, but that's, the female aspect. And so it is very confusing in Sumerian. That's why I always do the Egyptian one's easier. So in Genesis, the word deep translates to Tihom. Deep's the abyss, and linguistically the Semitic form of Tiamat, the name of the Babylonian goddess. So she represents the abyss. And she was the one who was sacrificed. See? Representing the abzu, which is the deep, the watery chaos before nothing. So in the Bible, she's representative as the Tihom and the abzu, which Marduk killed and fastened her as the stars in the sky. Here's the translation here. So Ki, Nintu, Ninhursag, Tiamat, Earth, Ninma. Sorry, that's there. I deleted something there and that's there. But here's Earth and here's her symbol. And we see Egyptian wearing this symbol too. So her symbol is the Omega. So we're going to talk a little bit more later about the Alpha and the Omega. I know Jesus is the true Alpha and Omega, by the way, just to make that clear before I get into all that. So here we go again. Lahamu, parents of Kishar and Anshur. And then they are parents of Anu. And he is the god of heaven, lord of constellations, king of gods and spirits and demons. Which we know, I guess, Jupiter became the king of the gods through that castration, of Uranus and Saturn. So this is interesting because Jupiter, which is Marduk, and Ninurta, they merge together as Saturn and Jupiter as Sekuth. And we translated this in one of our last older shows. So that way he could be merged with Saturn here. So Marduk and Ninurta merged together. They're the twins. They're the same deities. So, continuing on, and this is really interesting. In Revelation, we talked about the woe and the trumpet and the abyss, and now there came out the smoke out of the smoke locust upon the earth, and unto them was given power, and the scorpions of the earth have power, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So when the abyss is open, Cern is a stargate, and I'm going to show more information on some connections below. But when this gate is open, other things happen later on after this in Revelation that's interesting, and with the wars that are starting to happen right now. And I wanted to show a couple of little maps and what the Bible says about releasing the angels. So when the gates open, they're not allowed to harm the people with the seal of God, which is people that has accepted Jesus Christ. And in Revelation 9:5, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, the people that they're going to torture without the seal, but they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the reason so is because they'll want to be their own God and immortal. And whenever the atmosphere of the spiritual world merges with our worlds, with the sulfuric antichrist spirit that I'm going to translate from the Bible later too, which is very fascinating, that's why they can't die, because they're going to be like immortal, so to speak, fleshly immortal. In Revelation 9:7, and the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as the breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings as sounds of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Now, so when the pit opens, these demons are going to go into armies. They're going to go into everybody that are in armies that don't have the seal of God. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue it is Apollyon. And one woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. Here's the Euphrates River, right where Syria is in Iraq.
Boy, I wish we had a picture of the Silk Road going right down from China, where it pops out there.
Right up here.
Yeah, because it's all those Istan things. It like comes down through the middle of all those little mini Istans. And that's what I'm really interested in right now, what's going on in Syria, that the Chinese, the old Silk Road is fully operational and loaded up, because nobody's been talking about it for a long time. And I know that they got to be moving their military up and down that thing and have staging points to just fly right down that road, right into that area.
Yeah, we'll have to do on our next show. We'll put some pictures and stuff of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time since I've read about it, but it's
that's why I want to focus on it, because everybody else is not talking about it, and when they're not talking about it, that's not good.
Yeah, we'll do that. Genesis 2:10, and a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence was parted and become into four heads. The name of the first is Pishon, that is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. There is a bdellium and the onyx stone. So this word, I think, is somebody's name, somebody in the bloodline of Cush, I think. I'm not sure, but
It almost makes me think that's like a Nordic sounding name, Havila. Like it almost sounds Viking-like that they would use that.
Yeah, it's interesting to me how this book is written, and then the names that they use, so and where they're located, because there is a big stretch of where these are located. It's not in just one small area.
Mm-hmm.
And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is at that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. So we know Ethiopia is in Africa. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. So these rivers go all the way from here to here. And actually, Egypt was all the way from here to here at one point.
Makes
and
sense.
All the way through Canaan, too.
Makes sense. Do you know where Ur is there? Ur of the Chaldees in that picture? Where it's kind of
over here somewhere.
Somewhere right around there, because that's when we get into Job and, and also Abraham. So it's kind of like, it's, the oldest book of the Bible, I think, is Job. And so trying to go back to where he came out of.
Yeah, the kings are really interesting. And then the book of, what's that book called? The
Enoch?
law book? No, it's the law book.
Leviticus?
No, it's their Hammurabi.
Hammurabi Code. The Hammurabi
But it's
Code.
also called something else, starts with an M. But this is just, this is interesting, with this whole map here. And we know before the flood, the world was different too. And the land.
Yeah,
So,
I think the whole water coming up from the deep thing must have broke apart the what do you want to call it, the continents. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense that the coming up from the deep and breaking the crust would do something like that.
Yeah. So abzu means sweet, primeval waters, and Tiamat means salt. Primeval waters, sweet and salt water come together at the merging of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which is where the origin of the Mesopotamian civilization occurs. It's another map. Here's Babylon. Here it is, right here, Tim.
Cool. Yeah, there it is. It's a little further back than I thought.
Here's Havilah right here.
Huh. Okay. And then let's see. Where's the Phoenicians would be over there towards Jordan. Phoenicia.
Yeah, this is the 33rd degree of the Earth. And it's all right here where the Vatican is over there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the oldest dialects, the Phoenicians and the seafaring. There was seafaring all through that area. And then we got Urs on the other side, right near Iran, and the Persians.
So just think that this is where the four angels are, and I'm sure they're huge.
Oh, yeah, I bet we're gonna, that'd be interesting to see how much we get to see of this. I know a lot of people pre-trib think that Revelation 4:1 is where the church disappears, but we're seeing all kinds of. I'm one of those who just is watching and observing, and I don't come down hard on anything as far as it looks like horsemen are riding to a lot of people. Do with this war and rumors of war and bloodshed and beheadings and everything, you know.
Yeah, I
But
think we're close.
yeah, I just, it looks
Hey, well, you were
crazy.
just talking about horsemen. Here you go.
Good.
And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. They're 200 million men. And I heard the number of them, and I do believe they come from the east, and they are the White Dragon Society.
Yeah, some people have said that the Chinese actually come down. I mean, I've heard people say that they come down on horses, and their whole speculation is because of the disruption of the oil fields and the EMPs and stuff, that you could just ride horses like the old Mongols. Their Mongol tradition, where they were horsemen and they came down as horde into Europe, and they're doing the same thing. It is interesting, though.
Well, the White Dragon Society is outspoken on the New World Order, and they were offered a lot of money to go away, and they do not like the Rothschilds.
I'm with them.
And so anyway, they have 200 million men. So
I know. They believe me, that China could have a 200 million man army easy.
yeah. And Revelation 9:17, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth, which is like a purplish blue, and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone.
Ooh, that's wild symbolism.
Brimstone is coming out of these demons. So I'm going to translate in the Bible, and it gets a little deep here, but just bear with me. And then this last verse here, by these three was the third part of men killed by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents and had heads, and with them they do hurt. So here's the translation to brimstone. Theon is sulfur. And here's down here, it says, bringing down God's judgment to display his awesome, unstoppable power. This is a sulfur smell left by lightning, figuratively speaking. So here's another word for sulfur. We talked about theos is divine, a deity. And we know fallen angels they're supposedly they're deities. Theos is also God or a god. So we know demons are called God, and they want to be gods, and they're fallen angels. Gets even more interesting. So the word sulfur translates to ho, he, to, and thee. The definite article. So watch this. So here is the Strong's translations. This is from this Thayer's Greek lexicon, and it says, "The" in German means der, die, das. And so I translated this a long time ago on one of our shows, and an ancient "the" means plowshares. And here it is from brimstone, sulfur. The beginning and the end, the fire that comes out. Fire, and we wrote down the burning sulfur, the four colors, and how it is the Antichrist spirit. It is gold in essence. And so these Antichrist spirits are killing people with fire from their mouth. That's called the beginning and end, the Alpha and the Omega plowshares, the taw and the cross and the leaf, the bull's head. I mean, I know Jesus is the real Alpha and Omega, and then Satan is the copycat, but here it is again. This is a slide I made a long time ago before I found out this translation in the Bible at brimstone means plowshare. So these LV for the fifth age, die in German means plowshares. And here's Cain holding a plowshare, which is an A. In our last show, we went over how this means gold. And it means tied to the Ursa Major and the leg of the bull. So the Hebrew word for serpent is nahash. The root of the word are the Hebrew letters nun, het, and shin. Shin. Shin is the leg of the bull, which means to guess. This was translated into their languages as Satan, which some say mean enemy or adversary. Here's Shin. This is what the Jews, the Teflon they wear on their head is this letter. And they have one reserved for one to come, which is the Zayin. But the Shin is the sickle. It is the leg of the bull. It is represents Seth or Typhon, Saturn. So it means the shining ones in Hindu, Ursa Major, and it means the Pleiades too, and it means Kofesh, and it also means Khonsu. Khonsu is the moon god.
I think it's interesting in the figure 12 down below, where Jesus is not the author of confusion, and here we have the constellation of the bull's leg, Seth, god of confusion.
Yeah.
So Jesus is not that.
No way.
So I find it always interesting how the Bible has some interesting ways of saying things that do mean the same thing.
By the way, Orion means Kessel in Hebrew, and that means full.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Okay, so here's the Shin, and it's the fire in the middle, and it's represented in Horus set. And this is Shin. And Osiris is the air. And isn't this the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet?
I'm not. Yes. I'm not. I think
it is. And this is the middle letter. Because I remember studying about the first, middle, and end letter of the alphabet. So yeah, this is the middle. This is the beginning and letter. And then here's Venus representing water. We know Enki is the god of water. So here's this what I put in our last show in Theosophy. 7 stars of the Pleiades transmit spiritual energy of 7 rays from Horus, Mithophanes, Eros, son of Venus, Isis, and Thoth as resurrected Osiris, then to the 7 stars of the Great Bear Ursa Major, then to Sirius. And Juno, which is Seshat, and Hera represents the North Star, and this is in the spell book. It's she of 7 points, spell 10 of the coffin text states. Seshat opens the door of heaven for you. So this North Star is the energy. It's the door opener. When the Ursa Major goes around, it makes the swastika, like we said. So, but the Pleiades of the Taurus transmit spiritual energy from the 7 rays of Horus. And the 4 souls of Horus are the Ursa Major. And then it goes to Sirius, which is connected to the belt of Orion. In past ages, whichever star had the position of the pole star was worshipped as the star of that age, and temples were built to them in ancient Egypt. Polaris is now the star of our own age. The planet Uranus was discovered 1 degree longitude away from the star. And Olaf wanted to say hello. No. Okay, so interestingly, Olaf is on the Frozen movie, real popular kids movie, and a leaf in Syriac means Olaf.
They sneak it in everywhere. Yeah.
Christian Olaf Bernard Birkeland.
Bernhard. Yeah, Bernhard Birkeland.
Bernhard Birkeland. Yeah, he's the tied to the Birkeland current studies of that. His name's Olaf too.
Yeah, see?
And Olaf went up on a space mission too.
Uh-oh.
So here's
true.
the
We did have Olaf up on the ISIS or whatever, didn't we?
Yeah.
They put it up there in the middle of the hexagon.
Yeah.
I was going, wow, so we have the Olaf connection now.
Here was the last verse of Revelation 9. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet repented not of their works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of fornication, nor of their thefts. Tortured 5 months and they still didn't repent. So I just wanted to throw this in there. The Dath means knowledge. So
the Dath is that part of the what do they call it? Kabbalah tree. That's the one that Aleister Crowley was trying to jump and lost his mind, basically.
Yeah.
Well, he never had a mind. The guy was he's so evil to begin with, and all the depraved sexual stuff that they did to all those children. He's definitely rotting in hell right now for everything he's done.
Mm-hmm. And then in Revelation 13:16, and he causeth all small, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right. This came off, sorry. It's on their right hand or their foreheads.
Mm-hmm.
Jude 1:6, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day.
Well, we got angels coming up through those rivers, don't we?
Uh-huh. Pretty soon, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy.
2 Peter 4:2, for if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved to judgment. So here's an alignment that I just wanted to show. The Bible talks about the 12 stars on the head and the woman giving birth in Revelation. And there is an alignment on September 23rd, 2017. Seems kind of far from now, but, if the tribulation begins soon, and it could be cut short, So
yeah, I think that symbolically what we were looking at is this Pope's visit to the United States was the beginning of the New World Order, and them implementing all this end times global communism in the 10 regions and the Antichrist. I think we are seeing it, and that's what the kickoff point for them getting it going. We were looking at what was it this month? With one guy was talking about the woe on the 7th or something because of the tight conjunction of Scorpio and the other constellations there. And so we were looking at some people that are looking at the stellarium type of alignments. This one is absolutely significant, I believe, the one we're looking at here with the September 23rd, 2017. But some of the other ones are interesting.
Yeah, it happens once in 7,000 years. And then here's the
is this
I'm
not
on
our
this other program? Okay, so this egg comes by in a shadow during this constellation, and she gives birth to Jupiter, and then it hits right on the 88th, the center of the egg, hence right on the 88th degree of the United States.
Yeah, and this is kind of like the cosmic version of an omphalos stone. You know, how we believe that we're looking at these omphalos stones, which are believed to be the centers of connected to the center of the earth. And here we have a cosmic one that goes right over the what's that? What's that? What do they call that when we split the United States in two with that down that right there at the Mississippi?
Right, oh, the fault line.
Yeah, what's
Madrid
that?
fault.
Madrid. Yeah, that's the Madrid fault line. That's supposedly what goes right over that section. And just so that you know, just for interesting things, the San Andreas movie with The Rock just got released to Redbox today. So for all those people watching all this seismic stuff from Dutch Sense and other things like that, that there's some crazy upticks in different seismic zones. I thought that was interesting that it came out today.
I know, it's because this TV stuff is connected,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and dates and times, and the Mandela effect is so weird,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And but this is a show Tim told me about. That's the name of the show is.
Oh, that episode 0 Hour is not the 666 Park Avenue, but it's
Yeah, this was like a sequel that they did.
Mm-hmm. So 0 Hour could be a important trigger word that Hollywood likes to use. But the episode, the series that I just watched, I got 2 more episodes left, but the series is called Continuum. And I don't know how many of these slides that you have of Continuum in here, but what about
this? This is so interesting because when I started researching it, I noticed that Obama had a 0 hour deadline meeting for the deficit.
Yeah, they like the 0 hour thing.
And then there was a lot of movies, like real old movies, and there was a band that did an album called 0 Hour with the devil on it.
There's something with it. It's almost like it looks like Horus almost. The hour looks like like Horus or something, you know. So I don't know. It's something that they think they're doing a play on words here for some reason. But do you have any of the Continuum pictures here at all?
This is one.
No, this wasn't from the Continuum picture there. That's a verse.
Yes, it was from the trailer.
Oh, well, maybe the Continuum series is, I think this might be a different trailer, but the Continuum.
No, it was from 0 Hour. It was like their trailer, and this one was from it too.
Let's see.
Is it about the clock?
No, this is a different. This is different. The Continuum series. Did you get? We didn't get the D wave thing in there, did we?
No, I couldn't find any of the pictures.
Well, I'll just tell everybody real quick why we were trying to connect Continuum. They have a episode called 0 Hour in the 4th season, and the 4th season was a 6-show wrap-up season to the complete series. The series is called Continuum, but the episode is called 0 Hour. So Chris has found a connection with the 0 Hour. It definitely connects into a lot of other shows. It's obvious. But in the Continuum show, what they showed is they showed that these time travelers were making a portal, and in this episode, and it was Cern, basically, a portal through the dimensions to come back from an apocalyptic time and to escape in the lifeboat to the current time. And what they showed was that these guys were stealing technology from the current time. And so the police show up outside this building, and the building is the D-Wave quantum computer building right in this show Continuum. And they said, who would steal a quantum computer? and there we have D-Wave, of which Anthony got in trouble for talking about them, right in this 4th season of Continuum, right there. And we're talking about wormholes and time travel in this show, and an apocalyptic future and changing time. And they even had the traveler, they called it in the show, that looked like a Jesus Christ character that came from several hundred years, and gave one of these Shakti put. If you saw Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where the guy touches the girl's forehead with the transmission, the Thai, Taoist transmission of knowledge into the third eye. That's what this, Jesus character, this Sananda character, this fake Jesus character did. He gave the guy who didn't believe in any of this, he was a pure scientist. He didn't believe in any of this stuff. He gave him a Shakti put third eye moment that revealed everything to him in a download. And then they proceeded to talk about that your future is not set in stone. Again, it's like the Tomorrowland message, which says that if we can avert this programmed biblical apocalyptic program by breaking, Saturn, basically. That's what all these guys are trying to do. If we break time, if we stop time, if we break the time that dimension, then we don't have to enter into this the end of the prophecy, which is them going to hell. If they break time to where they're stuck in time, where they can travel through the dimensions parallel to time, then they can escape judgment. This is what it all comes down to. So that's why you're seeing this in this sci-fi stuff. So Continuum is showing you that. Now I got 2 more episodes to finish out the 4th season.
So I guess this isn't from that?
That's not Continuum. No, this is Zero Hour was a great clock movie. That was a great movie that was showing a lot of this traveling around trying to it was kind of a Raiders of the Lost Ark of Illuminati, of Freemason, clues, kind of a thing. So it was interesting. But Continuum has all our time travel, CERN, wormhole stuff all through it. At least I recommend that if you can get hold of it, the 4th season, the episode of Continuum called 0 Hour will show you the wormhole. It will show you the Jesus character. It will show you the future doppelganger concept of the older self talking to the younger self and the younger self influencing the older self. So it gives you this whole quantum entanglement kind of concept of changing the outcome of going back and forth in time until you get to your desired outcome. And that's I think that's what Mr. Katai was doing with his stuff, is that they're trying to fool around with time and come out with different things. And Chris has talked about the Bernstein Bears, that stuff, where people are saying there's just weird things going on where people look at their old stuff and,
Well, it's the Snow White. People are bringing out their old videos, and it says magic mirror on the wall. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say mirror, mirror on the wall anymore. So how can everybody's videos in the world be changed?
Right. So this is the time loop stuff that Mr. Katai was talking about. We didn't get into this with Anthony on the splitting time into 2 timelines and then refeeding time back. This is the 12 Monkeys theme. This is a lot of this time travel stuff, Back to the Future, as we've seen with the Back to the Future movies, about changing time. The Butterfly Effect with the Heroes Reborn show that's out right now, about time travel. You change something in time, you change a timeline. So this is what they're doing. I think they actually have. Now I know that Gary Stearman and his time travel book says there is no travel in the Bible. There is no time travel backwards. It's all future. It all goes to the future. But they have done something with this CERN stuff. And this, they're messing with time somehow. It's kind of obvious to me now. And what was that other movie that we watched? Sliders. The Sliders show was also showing all this time. So they are definitely screwing around with time somehow. They have crossed, messed with reworking time somehow. But the outcome's still the same. I think they've seen that they can't change anything. They just keep messing up things, you know.
Well, what about Star Wars? He said, "Luke, I am your father." Now it says, "No, I am your father."
Oh wow, that's another weird one, you know. Yeah, so I think these Nazis, I think the Bush Nazis, I think the whole Nazi clan, the Bormann group, the multinationals that got hold of all this technology that run CERN, that they have screwed around with time. They have raided these archaeological fallen angel sites. This ancient technology was left there. They are working with the fallen angels, and they're screwing around with time, trying to avoid the judgment on the fallen angels and the Nazis, or the Cain's kids, basically. So that's the stuff I'm following right now. But
yeah, and the truth is the Bible is true, and it talks about the tribulation. It's going to come. We don't know when, but the most important thing.
Isn't it interesting? I'm sorry to interrupt, but the whole thing about you will not know the time or the day talk in the Bible about his coming, and they're screwing around with time. Isn't it? I mean, they really are messing with stuff that they have no business messing with, and it's out of pure desperation to avoid their judgment, and they're doing such evil right now. It's obvious to everybody that they're involved in such evil, trying to promote these wars and just destroy society to get to their new world order and escape their judgment. But I'm sorry. Go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, it's they are doing these things. I mean, CERN is a Stargate. They're rebuilding one that was destroyed in Iraq, and they are connected to Saturn. And the Bible says, as in the days of Noah, and the Titans were then, they had wars with the Olympians. And so this day is going to come. Men's hearts are going to fail for what they see. And those who do not have the seal of God, when the abyss is open, are going to be tormented. And, God knows who are his. And if you've never accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, you should accept him and repent of your sins. And don't be desensitized from the world and the worldly systems and all of this evil on so many levels, so much trickery in the world that's happening. The Holy Spirit will seal you and give you wisdom and help you with everything in your life every day. All you have to do is just go to Jesus and pray and ask him. And there's so much power in prayer, and God loves us, and we're his children. And so I hope that people realize how serious times that we're living in. And I just had one verse at the end. It said Isaiah 38:18, for Sheol cannot thank you. Death cannot praise you. Those who go down to the pit cannot hope for your faithfulness. And this is what we've talked about today, are gods of the dead. Cern is tied with the fallen angels and the gods of the dead. And the true God is beyond this universe. And we can't see him. We can't, he's with us too, with his Holy Spirit, because Jesus died on the cross for us, and he was an atonement for us for our sins. And we are in need of a savior because of the fallen world. And the only people that are going to live with Jesus in paradise, like that day he was hung on the cross, and the two thieves, one of them talked down to Jesus and said, if you're God, why don't you just take yourself off the cross? And I'm paraphrasing, but then the other thief asked him to remember him in his kingdom. See, he knew and believed and knew who Jesus was. And then Jesus said, today you will be with me in paradise. And Jesus is God. He doesn't lie. And so You know, it's amazing that we get to go to a paradise with God and forever. But those who choose to be their own God and they reject Jesus are of the spirit of the antichrist. But I just hope that people will pray for their families and pray for their neighbors, pray for friends, and just say prayers for people and pray more and read the word and reach out to Jesus Christ and make him the Lord of your life. And that's my hope. So if anybody has any prayer requests, they can send them to me. I am praying for everybody that has ever asked me for a prayer request and for their families, for the illnesses they have, for their salvation. And I pray that everybody will pray too for people when they see prayer requests, because the more prayers, the better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You should pray when people ask you to pray, right then. And you know, it's you're doing what God wants you to do, which is to intercede for your fellow man and your for their salvation and for their needs, because he's given us the authority to bind and loose here on the earth, and we're supposed to operate within the authority he gives us to intercede on behalf of those who need it. And so it's very important. And that's what we're doing. We want to maintain our prayer life. We want to maintain our worship and focus on the return of Christ, his kingdom come, his will be done. That's my absolute first thing that I always pray for, is that his kingdom come, his will be done. And that we pray for those who haven't been saved to be saved, and that we stay in the word, because we're really under a lot of pressure and a lot of distractions. And, we want to just be watching and be warning and to be interceding for people that they get saved in this time of right at the tribulation period that we're starting you can see it's right here. So we want to be doing what we can on behalf of the kingdom.
Yeah, things will get more confusing. Religion, who's God, and wars and just the government, the trade, and the dollar collapsing, and the battles,
and just
the
level
it's
of
just going to get
dishonesty.
confusing.
The level of
Yeah.
dishonesty with everybody who's in authority. They're just so dishonest now that it's almost like a trauma-based mind control. You just keep lying and keep lying and keep lying until people get so punch drunk mentally that they just can't tell what's up or down anymore.
And what about the order out of chaos they talk about all the time? And that is set in Horus. That's Hermes and Apollo, Enki and Enlil. And they understand that, the elite do, because they understand the bloodlines and the wars that are going on. And that's why they cause wars, for their own benefit and not for ours. And so, that's why they call it order out of chaos, because they understand that it's these two forces that are coming against each other. That's why Iran hates Israel. It's these two forces coming against each other. And so it's the same gods working behind the scene, pitting everybody against each other, and causing these wars and these battles. And it's just really sad, the evil in this world and the lust from these evil people, and how horrible it is.
Yeah, I was reading, just so that people can be informed, I was reading of a New Ager that had the ability to see the energies around things. And I thought this is very interesting, because they're just relating through their studies, through their many trips through India and all this stuff, that when they enter these towns where these paper mache idols are, or these stone idols are, when they would watch people worship in front of these idols, they would see the eyes start to light up on these idols, the energy of these idols. And I thought that was interesting, because of course they have no Christian orientation whatsoever, but it goes back into these demons and these devils wanting man to give them worship. And here you have somebody who has one of these occult gifts of viewing the energy of worship, that they can see that these idols are lighting up, and their eyes are lighting up, and other people can't see it, but they can see as people are worshiping these idols. So you think about the Catholic Church and all these Marys out there in their little groves outside their churches, and they're the little groves, the little Marys, and the people giving them adoration and worshiping them. And then you think of people like this who are New Agers, seeing the demonic energies showing through these idols. And you go, now you understand why you're not supposed to give worship or form idols or any of these things, because the energies of these demons get built up through the worship that people put into these things to do evil. So is actually I just wanted to relay that at the end here, that we're only to give worship to Jesus and Jesus only, and not to worship anything in this world. And I just thought I'd add that on in the end as a real life lesson from people who are involved in the occult and what they witness. So I thought that would be helpful to those who are listening in today.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll be working on our next show and, putting more of the pieces together. And I guess we'll see you next time. Hopefully maybe Friday or maybe Tuesday.
Right. I'll finish Continuum by then to see if they break time in that show also.
Yeah, next time I'll have to get the right pictures from the movie.
Oh, that's all right. That show you showed was a very good one. As a very Masonic about them also doing the same thing. But thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks a lot, Chris. This was awesome. A lot of fun today.
Thank you too. God bless everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.